Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the Iron Bark Podcast, and I am your host, Epion. Today we're going to talk about orangutans using plants to heal their injuries, puppy dog eyes and wild canines, cane toad resistant quolls, and I'll finish off with a little story from my past weekend involving the Aurora Borealis, or otherwise known as the Northern Lights. So, guys, Colossal Biosciences is at it again. Another great story coming out of them. This time, they are going to help save the quolls of Australia. If you don't know what those are kind of like little weasel cat things. They're awfully cute. But here's the issue. The quolls eat cane toads. The problem is cane toads, they are toxic and they just secrete this poison and it kills the quolls that eat them. Quolls are native to Australia. Cane toads were introduced to combat the native gray-backed cane beetle, which I guess was problematic for sugarcane farmers back in the day. So as you can imagine, Colossal plans to gene edit these quolls to make them resistant to the toad's toxic poison and keep that species thriving in Australia. I think that's pretty neat. I think that's a cool way of implementing gene editing in wildlife and helping them survive and keeping that species from going extinct or becoming threatened. The next big story is a Sumatran orangutan in Indonesia has self-medicated using a paste made from plants to heal a large wound on its cheek. It's the first time a creature in the wild has been recorded treating an injury with a medical plant or a medicinal plant. So I'm going to just read you guys an article. This is from the Smithsonian Magazine. In June 2022, a team of researchers observed the behavior of which was never before witnessed in the animal world. A Sumatran orangutan named Racus self-treated an injury made from using a medicinal plant. So this orangutan got into a bit of a scuffle and had a big wound on his cheek. Researchers found it picking and chewing stems and leaves from Acar cunning. It's a type of yellow root. The plant is a climbing vine native to the region that local people use for its medicinal qualities, to treat conditions such as diabetes and malaria. While it's barely a staple in the orangutan diet, the team noted that the yellow root is eaten by only 0.3% of the time. So very little, 0.3. So they witnessed this orangutan chewing it without swallowing it, then spread the juices on his wound, where some flies began to gather. So pretty much a pretty decent instance of, I don't know, maybe this orangutan learned this from people. It observed them doing it, and then it just copied it. Who knows how it came about this, but it's the first time in observation history that we've seen an animal heal itself with a medicinal plant. What can we say about this? We look way back in human history. We can see that people have been using plants to heal themselves for a long time. It maybe speaks to the origins of how we started doing this. So it's incredibly interesting, and it's very neat that primates are doing this, and very early. Maybe this is what early man were like as well when they were discovering how things heal. Just being very in tune with nature, obviously being more of an animal and discovering, hey, these things help heal me. The last news article I'm going to talk about is puppy dog eyes and wild canines. It's sparking a rethink in dog evolution. So, as you may know, dogs have eyebrows. They have this expressive kind of like begging look when they look at you. So they actually have muscle fibers in their eyebrows that express this, and they used to think, or maybe they still do kind of think, but now they're debating on it, is that they evolved alongside humans to kind of communicate with us. Because you see these in dogs, but you barely ever see it in wolves. So the thought is, okay, if wolves never developed this probably has something to do with, evolving alongside man to get along with man. But here's the thing, they started witnessing it and seeing this in wild African dogs. So wild African dogs are highly social animals. They have it. They're wild. They're not domestic. So it's like, how did they evolve it? They think, those dogs are highly social. They probably evolved it to communicate with each other non-verbally so that they can hunt better and just look at each other. So maybe dogs didn't actually evolve this to interact with humans and to communicate with humans better. Maybe it's just sort of a thing some canines do, and it just happens to be that way. There's a whole bunch of different takes on that. I'm sure you guys are thinking of some yourself. For me, who knows? We look at different things, right? There was that silver fox experiment out of Russia where they took a bunch of wild foxes and bred the most, non-aggressive ones for to get along with humans, and then they slowly started to develop like floppy ears, longer tails, that sort of stuff. So maybe the eyebrows comes along with that. Kind of strange to see that in African wild dogs, but who knows? Maybe they're just evolving to communicate better amongst themselves outside of vocalizations. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about was the galactic storm, the solar storm, the most amazing event that we probably have seen this year besides the eclipse, because I think a lot more people got to experience the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, or as some people like to call it by its Disney princess name, the Aurora Borealis. But yeah, it was for me Friday night. I saw like the readings. Someone sent me the what it was going to look like for the potential for an aurora to happen. And I was like, oh wow, I'm going to go check this out. This looks like it's off the charts here. So Friday after work, I hang out for a little bit at home, pack some stuff, and then I head out to the mountains as it starts to get dark. It's a little bit dangerous going out to the mountains at night because there's animals literally everywhere, especially deer. So you got to drive extra slow and pay attention to what's going on the sides of the road because deer are eating every few clicks down that highway. I get to where I want to go. I'm looking out my window along the way as it gets dimmer and dimmer and darker outside. I can see lights dancing. They're kind of faint sometimes they're a little bit brighter, and I'm like, oh man, when am I going to stop? So then I start thinking, I'm like, oh well, this is actually kind of sketchy, and I'm kind of nervous because it's really dark out and there's grizzly bears, black bears, mountain lions all around here. So where's a good spot? So I actually end up finding a good turn-in spot. There was a place where there was a few other people actually parked on the side of the highway there. And it's a relatively safe spot, and I felt like the presence of people there kind of helped it. Safety in numbers type of thing. And I just started watching these Northern Lights dance and stuff like that, and it was surreal. It was the most amazing experience I think of my life. For some reason, it was like emotional as well. I think a lot of people could quickly think of it as a spiritual event or like whatever it is. It affects people differently, I think. But it's amazing to see like this veil, this massive curtain come down from essentially space, and it seems like it extends all the way up. Like it's massive. Like some of these veils, these lights were just massive curtains, like huge. On camera, you just see it to like you can't see anymore. You can't even occupy it all within your frame or your lens. And you just see it dancing in front of you, and it seems like it's stretching all the way down, and it's like touching you almost, and you're just like you're almost passing through it, like or something. Like it's crazy to say that, but it feels like that. And you're comparing it to the mountains in the background, and they're so bright. It's like giving this glow to the mountainside where you can kind of see it. It could have also been because the moon was slightly out that evening, but it just seemed like there was a glow, so I was able to pick up some pretty good photos just from the glow of the lights. You see in the backdrop like the mountains and stuff like that, the silhouettes. It was very, very, very awesome. I got some pretty cool photos. I had a lot of them on my Instagram story because I was just like, oh, here's a bunch of photos, and I just piled them all on there. But I put a couple of my favorites on X for you guys to check out. So if you feel like looking at what I saw, go look at that. Some people a little bit disappointed with the Northern Lights. They're not always going to be visible to the naked eye. Some places, depending on light pollution, cloud, just the way the particles in that area are, the way the solar flare hit them, they may not be as bright. So some people, it may just look like a gray, like fog in the air, kind of weirdly moving, some sort of like optical illusion. But when you hold your camera up to it, it's able to kind of pick up on those light particles more sensitively than you are, so you can get a better look at it through your phone camera or some other camera. But other instances, the lights are much more prominent. You can actually see them with your naked eye to some extent. And you can definitely if you're looking at a poor aurora, you can actually look at it, but you can see when it's intensifying. And you can be like, oh, now's a good time to hold my camera up to it. And you look at it and you'll see like a completely different version of it. It was astounding. It was amazing. It was like, I don't know. It's like God did a DMT trip to come see Earth and what it is all about. It was outstanding. It was one of the best moments of my life, I think. Yeah, it was one of them. Like, it was. I wish I got to experience it with like someone else, like, you know, and kind of share that moment with them. But just by myself, it was unreal. Like, and I have a lot of moments in my life like where I'm just like out hiking or something like that, and there's just like some unreal sunset, weather effects, storm. And this is why I record things, because people don't believe the shit I see. Like, if I didn't have those pictures of the aurora, people would be like, "You didn't see it like that. It wasn't that good." And then I show people the pictures, are like, "Holy crap! Like, you saw the aurora?" It's like, yeah, like I saw it. Like, it was like for realsy, like a big one, like an amazing one. So yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. But pretty good weekend. Saw 4 bears this weekend. I saw 2 grizzlies, 1 grizzly cub, and 1 black bear. And that was part of the problem. So on Saturday night, I was out looking for auroras again, but I think they were the best Friday night. I still got some okay photos, but they definitely weren't as like awe-inspiring as the Friday night. But every time I'd pull off to like a good spot I thought would be good for recording footage, I'd like look around. There'd be like a black bear like in the ditch or something, just like mowing away at some food it found or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, I can't hang out here. I'm like, in a few minutes, like it's gonna be completely dark, and I'm not gonna see that thing, and it's just gonna be out there. Like, so that was part of the problem. Was just a lot of bears. It was cool seeing a grizzly cub. It was a little bit older, but I don't think I've seen a grizzly cub quite yet, or I don't have footage of it. So I actually was able to capture footage, although kind of disheartening because it wasn't like a true. Okay, it was a wild grizzly bear for all intents and purposes, but it's one of those like rail railway grizzly bears. I call them grain grizzlies because they just walk along the railroad eating grain off the track that falls off the trains, and they just sort of like scavenge off that. So they're kind of like easy to pick. All you have to do is like drive alongside of a road that follows a train track, and you'll probably see a grain grizzly. But I don't know. It was a cub. I haven't got footage of a grizzly cub, so I got brief, kind of like not the best footage. Like, it's brief footage. There might be a couple instances where the shot's clear, but I'm filming through a tree line as well. And I was filming from the side of the road through a tree line, quite a distance away, and then trying to get them in between the trees as they're walking across the tracks. So I'm maintaining a good distance. I have a physical, geographical barrier between us, and then obviously I'm in the safety of my vehicle. So it was good for that, but for all other intents and purposes of like actual like clear, steady, clean uh, footage that lasted, a minute or longer, it probably wasn't the greatest. But I still think it was pretty cool nonetheless. I'm glad I captured a quick shot of that. It's a nice thing to throw into like the I guess stamp book of things I've taken pictures of or video of. That was on the bucket list as a grizzly cub this year, but I was hoping to get them a bit smaller, but it's very hard to see grizzly cubs. I think they mostly stay in the den until like late spring or something like that, because I've never really seen small grizzly cubs. I've only ever seen small black bear cubs. Um, yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Lots of elk. I guess I haven't done a podcast in 2 weeks. Sorry about that, guys. My bad. But lots to talk about. So the weekend before that, I saw an elk herd again. The elk herd had returned to the valley I normally visit. I was able to capture some footage of them, so that was pretty cool. Lots of whitetails, lots of mule deer, lots of bighorn sheep. Those are like the big ones. It was cool to see the elk again, and these are like the wild elk. They're not like park elk where they're desensitized to like human activity or presence. So I was really happy about that, to see those kind of elk again, like real wild elk, just kind of like trucking through the wilderness. I think that's the same herd I saw go on like a little bit of a stampede one time. Um, yeah, it's definitely neater to see elk that have a aversion for humans, or like a skepticism of humans, as opposed to a complete indifference, because they're sort of more wild. Um, what else can I talk about? Saw some ospreys, ravens, all the usual suspects. Nothing really to write home about. Just the bears. Bear season started mid-May. Next weekend should be I'm hoping for lots of grizzly footage. I'm hoping for a real good grizzly footage, like that last one from last year that I posted, where it's like it has like a cached kill of like a deer or an elk or something, and it's just gnawing away, and the coyotes are waiting to get at it. Like that was super great footage. So I'm hoping for something bomb like that again. Maybe like this time a wolverine comes in or a mountain lion. Like that'd be awesome. But that probably lightning won't strike twice again like that. I think that's like incredibly lucky to come across something like that. Uh, yeah, guys. I don't know. X content creation's going pretty good. Pretty good, I think. Don't really know what else to say about it. Gaining some followers. Don't know if they're bots or whatever. People seem to be supporting more and more, commenting more, liking more. That platform I feel like is really getting better and better. I think at least it's starting to surpass, getting close to surpass my Instagram. YouTube, I've sort of turned into like a neglected child. I'm planning on bringing it back a bit. I think once I have like a ton of videos, I'm just gonna go one a day and just see if I can like boost my views just by posting regularly, maybe every other day, and just boom, 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 instead of like once a week like I normally do with some videos or twice a week. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a crazy wild trip. Uh, these past couple of weeks, some good stuff. I always get caught up in the wildlife stuff. The Aurora threw me through a loop. Loved it. That solar storm, that was something else. I hope you guys got to experience it if you didn't. But like all my social media feed was just auroras from like here to Timbuktu. Everyone saw that and they had pictures of it. Some really great ones, some really good shots with like the moon and stuff. I was trying to do that. I couldn't get the camera to cooperate with the settings, but you know what? The experience was worth more than the documentation, I think, in this case. Anyway, y'all, I think that's it for tonight. Sorry about the 2 week little hiatus there. I hope they get back to doing it weekly. Hopefully, I can bang another one out on Friday. Yeah. So, see you later, Wolfpack. It's been nice. Cheers.